Hey everyone, and welcome back to Hitting the Field. We're so glad you're here because we've got a great show for you today. I'll be joined by Grant Wheeler and Camden Mowery to talk all basketball today. First, we'll talk NBA and how James Harden performed on his first night as a 76er last Friday, as well as how the Celtics have been climbing their way to the top. Then we'll move to women's college basketball and talk about some standout teams and players as we get closer and closer to March Madness. Oh yeah, did I mention that UCF's women's basketball team is ranked for the first time in school history and the AAC Conference Championships? We'll talk about that too. I'll finish this off with a rant about something that the people around HTFN have been teasing me about for probably a year now at this point. I'm your host, Hannah Jo Groves. Today is Monday, February 28th, and Hitting the Field starts right now.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
Welcome back. The NBA trade that everyone was talking about a few weeks ago was Ben Simmons for James Harden. People were debating who won out or benefited the most from it, but it's hard to say that Philly made a bad decision after watching the way that James Harden played on Friday. I'm here with Grant Wheeler and Camden Mowery to talk all about it. Grant, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling amazing. My Celtics are on a hot streak right now. I think they're finally picking it up, so we're going to be talking about them later on as well. But I'm definitely interested in talking about James Harden.
Okay, yes. Well, your Celtics did lose last night.
They did lose last night, but they've won 11 of 13.
We'll talk about that in a sec. Camden, I heard you didn't get much sleep last night.
Nope, I'm tired, but that's all right because I'm energized for about 30 minutes. I'm ready for this. I'm ready to argue. I can't wait to get into this.
Well, with that, let's get into James Harden. Guys, he is, at this point, the only NBA player to have 25-plus points and 12-plus assists in a debut for a team. Now, is this, we're talking about the honeymoon phase that he's in. Of course, no teams know how to guard the Embiid and Harden duo, so they're capitalizing every opportunity they can. They are capitalizing, getting the most points possible, and showing that they are two great athletes. Grant, how does this Harden-Embiid dynamic live up to your expectations?
This is going to be very interesting because now you can't put all of your focus on Joel Embiid. You actually have to guard the perimeter now because James Harden is out there. So you have to worry about two dynamic scorers. And this Philly offense, if Doc Rivers can get this thing going, the Sixers could come out. They could come out of the East. They could.
Okay. Is this bromance between Embiid and Harden all you wanted and more?
I think that this duo is going to be great. It is exactly what James Harden, it is exactly what Joel Embiid needed. James Harden has never had this elite center, and I think now that he has it, the pick and roll game between them is going to be great, and I can't wait to see what else they have going for them.
All right, so Embiid isn't the only guy that Harden is helping out here. We've also got Tyrese Maxey. How is Harden making Maxey's life a little easier?
He's going to make Maxey's life a lot easier because Maxey won't have to carry the load as much offensively. He won't actually have to dribble as much or set up plays as much. So like he can cut around the half court, get open looks. And Harden, he can not just shoot, but he can also pass. He can also facilitate. So
right.
And of course you have Embiid as well. Embiid's also a great passer for a center. So again, this offense is going to give many defenses nightmares, and they're going to be tough to dissect for sure.
I feel like Harden has shown us what you said, Grant, that he is not just an offensive weapon, but he can also assist. He can also help his teammates get to the paint and get to the rim. And I think he learned a lot of that from being with Kevin Durant on the Nets. So we're hopefully going to see even more of that with Embiid, with Maxey. What do you think about this Maxey and Harden duo?
Well, thank you for getting to me for it because I've got a couple thoughts about this too.
Okay.
All right. I think that if you're going to win in this league, you need to have a good third scoring option. All right. Obviously, James Harden is going to be first, and Joel Embiid, they can either be one or two. It doesn't matter. On whatever night, one of them is going to hit. But now you've got a good third scorer in Tyrese Maxey. This is going to be a matchup nightmare for other teams around the East, and I can't wait to see what this duo has in store.
All right, so Harden is obviously kind of proving himself here. He wasn't playing on the Nets, and now he's really showing out. Does it say anything that the past 3 times he's debuted, I think it's the Rockets, the Nets, and now the 76ers, why does he show out on this night?
I think he just wants to make sure, like on the first night, that he wants to make sure that the league knows that he's James Harden. Like, he's an offensive juggernaut. I think he wants to make sure like he can play well with a new team right away.
Yeah. So he's proving to the NBA, hey, you guys haven't seen me in a while.
Yes.
Here's who I am in case you forgot. That makes a lot of sense. Camden, what do you think? Why is he continually, every first night he gets, he's like, oh yeah, this is who I am?
Well, I don't want to fall under the category that he shoots way too many free throws, but if you look at the shots he's taking, he's only shooting 13, 14 shots a night, and he's being really efficient shooting. I think he was 8 for 14 on one of his first 2 games. So he's playing great. He's making his shots, and he's getting to the free throw line. That is his strength. That is what he's playing to. And I think, like Grant said, he's reminding the league who he is. Everyone kind of gives him a little crap when he got a little bit more weight gained onto him, and then he comes out here and says, I'm James Harden. I'm here to win.
He's telling the league that he can play with anybody.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, so let's talk about that now, because we did say they're in the honeymoon phase. Teams haven't had a chance to study Harden on the 76ers. So what are ways that teams can kind of get in advance studying the Embiid and Harden dynamic, the Maxey and Harden dynamic? What are ways that they can look into, stopping those guys?
Just watch the film.
Okay.
Just watch the film, and when you play them, make sure you study up, as much as possible in preparation before the game.
What are they looking for?
The half-court offense.
Okay.
Again, as Camden said, the pick and rolls, the give and goes, everything, the backdoor, everything. The defense, we know Embiid can play defense, but can the Sixers half-court defense, can that help them, get over the hump in the playoffs? We know what they can do offensively. So teams like the Celtics, who are very good defensively, are going to have to keep a great eye on the Sixers offense.
Putting in the Celtics where you can there, Camden. So yeah, what are other teams looking for? What are the weaknesses that they might already be seeing?
Well, I think what we've seen with Harden in the past is that he kind of chokes in the playoff a little bit, all right? He doesn't really win that big game, and I think it's because the refs swallow their whistle a little bit, right? They don't call as many of these fouls. They don't really give that call to Harden, and I think going into the playoffs, he needs to figure out a way to get to that free throw line still, or else they're not going to be able to get the job done.
Yeah, well, he was really good at drawing fouls, and now...
Another thing to note,
yes,
Doc Rivers, who's the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, has not gotten beyond the second round outside of Boston. So
interesting.
Until I see it happen, I can't predict them to go far, even though they have the talent to go far.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. What is your opinion of people saying that, like, now that Harden's on the team, they have no excuse not to make conference
There is no
finals?
excuse.
Okay.
You can say maybe defensively there's some issues, because Harden's not known for his defense.
Right.
So there are some liabilities on defense, so you can talk about that. But offensively, though, there's no excuse.
Well, basketball, a team sport.
It's a team sport, yeah.
Is that too much pressure to put on Harden? Or did you expect that before Harden got here?
I think that when he got to Brooklyn, it was championship or bust. And now this year, it's kind of feeling like the same thing. Now that he's got a new teammate, if they don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, this trade is a bust. Now, I know that they're technically winning the trade versus Brooklyn, but if they don't make it to at least the Eastern Conference Finals, then this trade was for nothing. That is what Philly wants to do. They're in a win now. They're in Joel Embiid's prime, and they need to get him a ring. And I know Harden's searching for one,
It will
too.
be a big disappointment if they don't get to the conference finals.
What does Ben Simmons think right now?
Ben Simmons has his phone in his pocket, and he cares zero about the world right now. He's not going to play for the rest of the year. His poor back. I hope all is well with his mental health, truly. But as for him playing the game of basketball, I don't think he has a care in the world. It seems like he's so uninterested in the sport. I don't know what he's doing.
I think he's probably just lost passion for the game of basketball.
And
And
hurts.
motivation to win championships.
The mental health has always been the struggle, and I think it will continue to be. He might be a little more motivated now that he's on a new team. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Grant, before we talk about the Celtics, Harden wasn't the only trade from the Nets to the 76ers. We also saw Millsap. How is he a factor for this? Are they winning out on that trade as well?
Well, he could be a factor inside offensively, Paul Millsap, but he's not the Paul Millsap of old that we saw when he was with Atlanta, when he was with Denver. He didn't have a good night the other night with Philadelphia. Again, he's off to a slow start with them. I expect him to be better, though.
Okay, what do you think about Millsap?
A couple years ago, you started to see that decline. I mean, the years on the Hawks, he was really good. He was a good third or fourth piece for that team. But now, I mean, he needs to know his role. He needs to know that he's coming off the bench, slowly but surely, work his way in, bang his body down low, get some rebounds, steal some possessions. Because when this game gets close, when the game is in the fourth quarter, they need to steal some possessions. And offensive rebounds are going to be big, so he needs to use his size.
All right, Grant, this is the moment you've been waiting for. Get to talk about your team here. So, Celtics did lose last night, but before that, they had won 11 out of the 12 of their games that they had played. So, Grant, what changes have the Celtics made to kind of become contenders in the East?
Well, first of all, Jaylen Brown is actually healthy for once. All season long he's been dealing with injuries. That's why they started off slow. That's why they're only 6th in the East right now. But defensively, they have really knuckled down. And that's what they're known for. They're back to playing Celtic basketball. Marcus Smart, his perimeter defense has always been there. And offensively, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they are a dynamic duo. They are really firing on all cylinders right now.
Totally. What have you seen them clean up?
Well, I think that a couple years ago when this team almost beat my Cavs in 7 games, I thought that this team was going to be scary, but it really feels like they haven't lived up to their expectations, right? They've had a couple bad matchups in the playoffs, but now that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are on the same page, I think that this team can have a shot at the Eastern Conference Finals as well. I mean, I hope that they can do better than that, but I really don't know what to see with the Celtics team. They're still, they're on a hot streak right now. But when it comes to playoff time, these young guys need to make their shots, and we'll see if they can.
Well, and the thing with Boston is their inside game. That's their weakness. They don't have a true dominant big man. They have Robert Williams. He's only 6'8". He's not like a 6'10 plus dominant force. That's what Boston's missing. Until they get that big piece, I can't see them winning a championship. But they could still make some noise in the East and cause some damage.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we'll probably see that, as we get closer to the end of the season, maybe making a move for a big man. So you talked about Jason Tatum being good with his teammates, having some, good 2-on-2 dynamics. So what growth have you seen from him?
He's more of a leader now than he was, a couple years ago. He's in his 5th year now. He's a 5th year, he's no longer, a baby. He's not a rookie or second-year guy anymore. He's grown up to be the leader of this basketball team. So I've seen him, make some leaps and bounds in that area as well. But Jaylen Brown, he's also a leader.
Yeah.
He's actually been in the league longer than Jason Tatum by 1 year. So if those two guys, if they can keep the chemistry they have right now together to stay healthy and, keep the leadership roles intact, they should be around for a long time.
All right.
Together,
All
playing
right.
on the same team.
Well, has Jason Tatum surprised you at all this season?
I think that we knew what Jason Tatum was about, but
Okay.
I think the guy that we need to focus on is Jaylen Brown, because he kind of struggled. I think he went into a slump last year or 2 years ago, but now he's kind of broken out of it. He's averaging, over 23 points in this last month. So he's coming on as a really nice second piece. Some nights he's even the first piece. I think that for them to make a run, Jaylen Brown needs to step up exactly like he's doing right now. Jason Tatum's going to get his. He's not 19 anymore, so they are going to bully their way and hopefully win a round in the playoffs.
And Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, injuries are what's holding Jaylen Brown back.
Right.
We know he can play. The production's not an issue with Jaylen Brown. It's the injuries. If he can stay healthy, then the sky's the limit for Jaylen Brown. It really
Totally.
is. Yeah.
Talk about Marcus Smart.
Marcus Smart. I think, if not the greatest perimeter defender in the league. He's known for his defense. We know he can do that, but offensively, he's a very streaky shooter. He can either be super hot, super cold. He's kind of like the X factor for the Boston Celtics. He really is.
All right. Any opinion on Marcus Smart?
Absolutely. When he was in college, I really thought he was a hothead. He was kind of had anger issues. But then when I learned about his story, what really went on in his life, it made me feel for him, right? And I think he's really cleaned himself up. He's given back to the community. I really like Marcus Smart as a player and as a person. And that's really what I root for in this sport.
I am right there with you, rooting for the player as well as the person. And I'll talk about that in the rant. Grant, what do you say to people who say that this winning streak is due to playing weaker teams?
That's a factor, but they actually have been playing better though. Again, defensively they've been more sound. Offensively they're knocking down threes. They're making more open shots. And I think Ime Udoka, I'm not really sold on him as the head coach yet, but I think he's starting to make adjustments. And yeah, they've played some weak teams, but hey, they're winning basketball games, and wins are wins.
Okay. Do you think that analysis of just winning because it's weak teams is correct? Or
I
what do
mean, a win is a win. That's all that really matters in this league.
All right, well, that's all the time we have to talk for NBA for now. When we come back, we'll be talking about our current favorite teams and players in women's college basketball. Stay with us.
I'm going with Cowboys versus Giants. Why? Because I am a New York Giants fan, and I want my first pick of the week to be my team. I see an upset for the New York Giants this Sunday. Bet your entire savings, and I'm telling you right now, they're gonna win. I don't care what you say. It's gonna happen.
I have to go with the Raiders, I think, for this one. I don't see them losing.
Welcome back. It is now time for our primetime picks of the week, the best segment. I'm currently doing awful, standing at 16-10, Oklahoma State and Texas. I'm going Texas 35-27.
All right, Jeff, don't tell me your winner, but who is going to the Super Bowl? The New England Patriots
Oh my gosh. Oh my God.
and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
God.
The
Oh
NFL is gonna.
God.
The NFL is gonna make it happen.
And we're back. Today's the last day of February, which means March Madness is pretty much already here. And while HTFN will have a special show for making a bracket for the men's tournament, I want to take a look at the women's teams before March starts. 68 women's teams were approved to be in the March Madness tournament this year as opposed to 64. And I want to talk about our favorite players that we've got going on here. I'm going to go first. I know I stole yours, Grant, and I'm so sorry, but I feel like it's the obvious choice for literally everyone. Paige Bueckers. And before, I've said Paige Bueckers, but I've learned since that might not be correct. But you could also just say Paige Buckets, and that works too.
She gets them.
She does. And so she came back from that hyperextending knee injury.
It was a nasty
It was. And, I talked to you guys about this earlier, but she was in a game that she shouldn't have been in at that point. She should have rested. It was a blowout, but her hamstring was tired. I think when she extended her leg, her knee just wasn't ready for it, and she was on the floor.
What was Gino Auriemma thinking?
I don't know. I mean, you want to have your best girl in, but all the time.
If she's not 100%, if she's laboring out there, and who are they playing? Like, they weren't playing like a top team.
No, they weren't.
Up by
It
20
was
against
Notre
somebody.
Dame, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but anyway, she came back with a force. She showed that she was, not affected by it at all, was still the best girl on the court. And you know what, Camden? I think that during her absence, her team was kind of forced to cover her and then become better in that process. What do you think about that?
Well, people obviously had to step up, and I think it's funny because Grant is our UConn guy, and he's like, oh, they're kind of struggling a little bit. They're ranked 7th, right?
Yeah.
They're still
for
really
women's
good.
UConn, that's like struggling.
Right. So
They'll be fine.
for their standards, that's not good. But I'm looking, they're ranked 7th. Their games, they're still beating good teams by 20 points. Like, did they miss her? I betcha in those close games. But until they get to those close games, it's good that they have Paige Bueckers back.
Totally. Okay, so Grant, did they get better without Paige, or are you glad that she's back for your team?
I'm glad she's back. I mean, she's their best player. I mean, they were obviously not as good without her. They're still really good without her. I mean, 7th in the country.
Yes.
But for women's UConn, it's kind of low. They're usually always in the top 2, top 3, or always usually be number 1.
So are you not satisfied with rank 7th?
I mean, for women's UConn, it's kind of.
Well, I mean, none of the seedings really matter until like the end anyway. When they get into the tournament
That is true,
games.
but they probably won't be a 1 seed come tournament time.
I mean, does that matter if they're going to play a 15 seed or a 16 seed?
No, it matters later on once they reach the Elite 8.
That is true.
Yeah.
But I mean, once they have Paige Bueckers back, it's not going to really matter, I don't think. I mean, it looks like South Carolina in the rest right now.
Stanford's really good, too.
Stanford's really good,
Yeah,
too.
those are the top 2 teams seeded right now.
There's some other good teams, but I mean, I don't think that this really makes a difference right now until the end. Being a 1 or a 2 seed, they're still going to blow out whoever they're playing until then.
All right, well, Camden, I want to move on to your favorite player because I know you're very passionate about it. Go ahead and tell us who it is.
You said call her Paige Buckets about your girl. Well, my girl's getting buckets too. Caitlyn
really
Clark,
is.
this girl, before I was coming on the show, I had already known about this girl. Me and my dad had talked about her. She is so good. She's like Steph, but in college basketball and a sophomore. The highlights that are being played for you are so good. I'm telling you, I stayed up last night and watched this girl's highlights. She dropped 46 against Michigan and they lost. This girl is so good. She's so quick. She's a great passer, and that's what gets underlooked by this girl too. She's a great passer. She's averaging 27 points, which is number 1 in women's college basketball. This girl, Caitlyn Clark, watch out for her. She might win Player of the Year.
I mean, watching her highlights, I repeatedly was saying, oh my gosh,
Right?
oh my gosh.
My mouth was open. I was like, you don't see this a lot.
I've never seen a girl shoot like that, ever.
She just pulls it from anywhere,
As
in
you
range.
said, she's like Steph
She's
Curry.
like Steph Curry. Well, and that's my question. How is the impact of watching a shooter like Steph Curry, growing up with that, watching that in the NBA, how does that impact someone in college?
Well, right. You look at the league 20 years ago, and everyone says it's gone softer since then when people are just banging their bodies down low, slamming dunks. But now you got guys like Steph and like Dame and like Trae Young in this league that are really shaping the future with their deep threes. Now, I still don't think it's the most efficient shot, but this girl seems to never miss.
Yes.
Like, I'm telling you, she shoots so good from 3. I don't get it. Like, just automatic. I don't know what practice she had growing up or what Wheaties she's
Yeah,
eating,
for real.
but she is on fire right now, and she
Yeah.
is on a tear.
Yeah, well, and I think it's really cool to see NBA, a men's league, impacting college women's basketball.
Right. It's bigger than the sport.
It's bigger than the
It's
sport.
revolutionary.
Absolutely. So, okay, Grant, you've got quite a force to talk about here. Tell us her name.
Cameron Brink is a force inside. The
Yes.
Stanford Cardinal, they are the defending champions, and a big reason for that is Cameron Brink. She's a sophomore. She's still very young, but averaging 13 a game, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks, 2.4 blocks, up close to 3, and 55.7% from the field. Rebounding machine on both ends. She can also defend, block, get to the free throw line, draw fouls, keep defenders off balance. She really is a force to be reckoned with.
Well, and she's 6'4".
She's 6'4". Wow. Yeah.
She's a forward, and I mean, as I'm watching her highlights, she gets a lot of her own rebounds
Yeah.
just because her defender
putbacks.
simply does not have a
She's
chance.
just so tall.
Again, I'm talking as a 5'0" woman. I would
flat.
have literally no shot, but even the girls that she's playing against have no shot. She's right
making them
there.
look small.
Yes,
Yes.
everybody. Yeah, so she is absolutely amazing, and yeah, you just can't stop her.
Big reason
And
why they're second in the country right now.
there was a game that she had 21 points and 22 rebounds.
Oh, wow.
It's just ridiculous.
That's like Will Chamberlain numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
21
think
and
she's going to
22.
be a huge force as they keep going. I mean, they might get to the #1 spot.
They could. Well, South Carolina only has 1 loss. They could be the overall #1 seed, but my bet is they'll be the second overall #1 seed, and
Okay.
it will be a disappointment they don't reach the Final Four. They should reach the Final Four.
They should, but hey, it is March.
It is March. Never
tomorrow, so
know.
we'll see what happens. I do have a knock on your girl, though. I went ahead and I looked into what the games that they lost. I believe they only have 3 losses.
That's it.
2 of them she did not show up in. So if they want to win, she needs to score.
has to show up.
Well,
I think she had less than 10 points.
I
in
have
those 2
faith she'll
games.
show up when it matters most.
I do
Okay.
too,
Tournament
but
time.
if she doesn't show up, this team needs to find other scorers that are going to score. I mean, that's why we're highlighting this player, because of how good she is. Her impact on the game. Now, if she doesn't have an impact on the game, you never know about the team. And that's kind of the same with my girl, Caitlyn Clark, who's doubling yours in points right now. I just want to put that out there. She's amazing. I'm just saying.
Not all about the points.
Not all about the points. Okay. She's still averaging 8 assists, 8 rebounds a game, too.
Fair. Everything's fair. Well, you guys have both emphasized a good point here. Basketball's a team sport. You can't
Right.
just have one
Yeah.
good player. Hey, and did you guys notice we all picked sophomores?
That is
Wow.
true.
What is up with
Some
this
young
age
kids.
group? Something's happening. We'll keep an eye
Some
on
of
it.
the
All right,
sophomores.
hey, before we go here, let's talk about UCF really quickly. Our women's team ranked for the first time in history,
Finally.
and they were the AAC Conference champions. I mean, this is great. They've had great defense. They've had, oh my gosh, they were unstoppable in the paint in their game against Cincinnati. They
Right.
just
Their defense is good.
Yes,
Really
and so
great.
and Katie Abrahamson Henderson, she's the head coach for them, and she said that the defense is their mojo. If they can't get that going, usually they can't get the offensive side of the ball going at
Because
all.
their defense creates points. Transition offense from defense, yes.
Well, look at the games they lost. They're giving up 60 points to Cincinnati. I believe they lost 61-57 to Cincinnati earlier in the year. And then they play them again, and they give up 32 or something like that, and they blow them out.
They've had some head scratchers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But when they score and when they play great defense, this team I can see them pulling off an upset here. I mean,
I know, I'd love to see it.
I like this
I'm
team.
representing the UCF. I don't know if you can see it, but that's why I'm wearing this jacket today, because
Always
I'm like all for them. So Camden, what does it say to everyone who doubts UCF?
I think this is a long time coming, all right? On Nighttime, if you have tuned into that, we've talked about this UCF women's team for weeks, all right? And there's still been no respect. And finally, they get 25th. Their record is matched up with the top 10 teams. They have 3 losses. Now, is there an excuse because they play in the AAC? I don't think so. They're conference champions. There's
Yep.
nothing you can take away from that.
Yep.
This team's defense is like the heart of this team, and they're playing amazing right now. I'm so proud of this team, and I'm glad that we're here for this ride right now.
Absolutely. And Grant, how does the chip on their shoulder of them, having not so great expectations or thinking that they might not do well, how does that affect them?
I don't know. It really affects them. I think this is
Okay.
a really, again, I said this earlier, they're a very tough group. Very
Yeah.
mentally tough. Diamond battles, a great leader,
gosh,
great
yeah.
player, great scorer. And again, Katie Abrahamson Henderson, she's done a great job, leading, rallying the players up and leading the team,
Absolutely. Yeah,
creating
and
a response in the locker room.
I've actually had the opportunity to, during football season, I worked with Moss, and I noticed her strong leadership, but she's understated. She's not someone who necessarily is like in your face all the time. She is when she needs to be. But even working with her, I noticed that. And so I think her leadership as a fifth-year senior and a captain, I think has been huge. And, you know, they're all really good friends. That also, the chemistry is also something
That's
that,
good to see.
yeah, results in really successful teams. So anyway, I can't wait to see what they do.
Oh, it's going to be
They
awesome.
can go far.
They
really
can.
With their defense, because remember, defense travels well.
Yes.
Defense wins championships. We know their offense sometimes can be lackadaisical when their
Right.
defense doesn't play well. But again, their defense can create transition points. And if they do that, they could go far.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for women's college basketball. Thank you so much, Grant and Camden, for coming on today.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, you'll hear more from us about it in the midst of March Madness, I'm sure, so stay tuned for that. But when we come back, you'll hear my thoughts on speculations that a certain NFL quarterback going to a certain team. We'll be right back.
Oh, it keeps coming back. No way. Welcome to the HTF Hot Wings Challenge. One of you guys actually do hot sauce like regularly?
No.
No.
It's like the least black thing I do.
Oh, wow, okay.
I say Johnny goes first on this one.
I agree.
The Buccaneers are going to play the Washington football team today.
That can't happen.
It will happen.
I'm terrified.
No, I really hate it.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. No. You're wrong. If it wasn't for Kanye jumping up on stage and doing that, I'm gonna let you finish, but no one would know what this was.
Nitro's dump truck. And if you don't know what I'm talking about,
Why is Nitro thick?
I don't know how many squats I need to do to get up like something like that, but I will do it.
Oh! Oh my God!
Baseball, obvious reasons. Babe Ruth, if you want to go currently. I feel like that's just like a thing.
he jumped off the wall to catch the home run. We made it through all the way to the end. Thank you for joining us.
I'm never doing this again.
Welcome back, everyone. Now is the time for the rant part of our show. And this one could take me to our infamous bad takes commercial. But I really don't care at this point. So there's this guy, a certain NFL quarterback, a 4-time MVP, a former host of Jeopardy, that has his career's future in question. And then there's this amazing team somewhere out west wearing the colors orange and dark blue. A team that has a lot of potential, but needs a hero. They've needed a hero for, say, the past 6 seasons since Peyton Manning retired. This amazing team, who I've been a fan of my entire life, also is in a good place money-wise. This amazing team also just hired a head coach that the aforementioned quarterback has worked with in the past. They've got all the components they need to make a good trade for the said hero that they've been needing. So I know what you're thinking. Sounds like Aaron Rodgers might want to go to Denver. But no. As a lifelong Broncos fan, I say, please, no. I know it's not smart. I know he's the hero we might desperately need. I know he could turn things around for us, but call it a woman's intuition, he gives me the ick. After last season begging to get out of Green Bay, a city that has done nothing but love him, weird quirks and all, I decided I didn't want him anywhere near my team. My dad told me the other day, if he comes to Denver, get ready to win. Okay, maybe that's true, but his talent on the field is his only redeeming quality. He's toxic. And the kind of hero that Denver needs isn't just a talent on the field, but has great leadership skills and is a quality person all around. That's not Aaron Rodgers. And on this show in the past, I admitted to being converted from a Tom Brady hater into a fan once he spent some time on the Bucs. I acknowledge it's possible for me to make that kind of transition from hate to love, but I really just don't see that happening with Aaron Rodgers. And if I end up on the bad takes commercial and Aaron Rodgers is in that orange and dark blue next season, Aaron, please get a freaking haircut so you at least don't look like a greasy jerk. Anyway, that's our show. Next week is UCF spring break, so you won't be hearing from us, but we'll be back the week after that for our March Madness special. Thank you so much for joining us, and from Alex Funderburk, myself, and all of us here at HTFN, have a great week. Peace.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.